It should pop up in a second. My whole heart just broke. I mean, we could have still had a conversation, but
That's right. We're all waiting with bated breath. That's a little pun for you.
there we go. And we are officially live for tonight's great Jaws debate. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And we're going to be talking some Jaws tonight. There's going to be a lot of puns, a lot of fun, and a lot of talk. So, Jaws has stood the test of time for decades. From its strong characters, amazing score, multiple quotable lines, this movie always seems to be at the top of everybody's best films list. So let's dive into some Jaws talk. Joining us tonight, we have three Jaws fanatics, if you will. And just like the Orca, these three gentlemen are coming aboard to tackle Jaws. Brad Rego of 221 Films, Captain Steve of Bucket of Chum podcast, and James Lamont from 508 Productions. Thank you for joining me. Let's close all
Thanks
these.
for having us.
I'm going to close all these extraneous tabs. So, Jaws rocketed from a summer monster movie to a celebrated blockbuster with pacing, well-timed reveals, calculated use of silence. Do you think the horror classification is correct for the Jaws movie? Along the same lines as I would use Silence of the Lambs as an example, when all the shark is really doing is what the shark is supposed to be doing, which is eating and swimming.
I think for like 1975, I can understand why it's classified as a horror because like a lot of people really didn't have the knowledge of sharks that they do now. So I can understand why that would be considered a horror. But I also understand the argument that it's not because it's not your typical horror movie. I would classify it more as like a thriller adventure movie because like the first half of this movie is very much like a thriller and then the second half is just like the three guys on the boat and it feels like every other Spielberg adventure movie, and I mean that in the best way possible.
No, I mean, I would definitely classify it as a horror movie. I think that's the right. I mean, yes, and I feel like there's a lot of people that I've come across who don't classify it as a horror
Yeah.
movie because of, and I hate to use this as what their reasoning is, but this is what I hear, which is like, oh, it's too good, it's too well made, it's too like the characters are too good. It's too good to be a horror movie, which obviously I take offense
That's
to
crazy.
personally in general.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of character stuff, but I think that's what makes it great. But at the end of the day, it is just a monster movie, and I think that's what makes it awesome, and that's what classifies it for me as a horror movie. I mean, I know like my classification for a horror movie is always something that is designed to instill fear by the filmmakers. Like
Yep.
the idea of it, the intent is to scare you, but then also has some kind of an X factor that brings it slightly above normal. Like, yes, this is a shark that um, does shark things, but this is a bigger shark, right? Like it's a slightly oomphed shark into territory that is not normal. And I think that's what sort of pushes it into the horror movie. If this was just like a science fiction, not science fiction, if this is just like some sort of science movie of like, hey, we're tracking a shark and the shark's
Yeah.
doing some things, maybe not so much. But like the general intent of this, along with sort of that kind of X factor, to me pushes it into a horror movie category where something like you mentioned like Silence of the
Yeah.
Lambs, I classify that as a thriller because although there is some fear involved, it doesn't quite have that X factor. It doesn't quite have that thing that pushes it into the abnormal range. And I feel like it's not designed to scare. It's designed to make you to have suspense and tension, but I don't think
Like
it's
uneasy.
designed to be scary.
I think I'm with Brad on this. I do classify Jaws as a horror movie.
It's crazy.
I don't think it's crazy at all. I think any movie, and I agree with Brad's classification of a horror movie as well, where the intent to create fear is part of the
That's a
genre.
great description.
I
Mhm.
completely agree with that. I think that's probably the best description of what a horror movie should be I've ever heard, and I fully back that. Um, when you are trying to create fear, which Brad can back me up on this, I think The only thing human beings are actually afraid of is the unknown.
Mhm.
That's it. It doesn't matter what is inside of that unknown, but that's why darkness is so used in horror movies. Now, this movie doesn't have the dark. It has the surface of the water
Yeah.
and what's happening beneath the surface of that water. And the masterful use, obviously we all know the story. A lot of that is because the shark was a
Failed.
janky piece of
Yeah.
crap and didn't work.
But
But
the
it
use
created,
of filming it
yeah,
at the water's surface
filming
is
it at the
so
water
well done.
level,
Yep.
filming it there, and it's about what's beneath. It's about what's coming to get you. I fully agree with Brad. It's that use of the unknown to create the fear that makes it a horror movie. Now, to Captain Steve's point, it does shift genres. There's no denying that. The second that they get on that boat, the game changes. It's not necessarily just a horror movie anymore, but I still think it's a horror movie in a different way. Now you have this isolation that is purposely created where you don't see land in sight. These guys, the boat is falling apart. Quint kind of becomes the bad guy at in the second half of the movie. If I'm being honest, it's not the shark's doing what the shark does, but Quint's
Quint takes control, I think.
Psychotic determination.
Yeah. Well, there's Ahab, a little
Yeah.
Ahab behind him in that.
Oh, definitely. It's
Yeah.
100% Ahab inspired. But he kind of becomes the antagonist in a way where Brody and Hooper are both like, "What are you doing, dude? Let's go." Like this is obviously we're out of our depth. And he's like, "Nope, we're going to kill this thing." And he eventually gets himself, I think it's kind of poetic justice. He's the only one of the three that actually dies.
Yeah. Well, don't ruin the movie for people.
Oh, come on. 50 years old.
I feel like there is no need for a spoiler alert.
Yeah, spoiler
I
alert.
don't think so. But no, it through and through the movie does it maintains the horror through line throughout. It just changes, it evolves.
Yeah, see, I can't put it in words as eloquently as you all can, but for me, it just I can't see it as a horror movie. I don't know. It's so hard for me to see it classified as horror. It's just a great fucking movie.
Yeah.
That to me is just a great movie and transcends any type of box, I guess.
But that's the thing. That's what makes the movie so good, is that it can be a bunch of things to a bunch of people,
right,
and there's still not really a wrong answer. It's open to interpretation.
I guess I classify horror as slasher.
See, but Jessica, that's a thing. Like horror is a much more wide encompassing genre than this one little tunnel vision thing where topless co-eds get chopped up.
Yeah.
Yeah, slasher is more of a subgenre of horror.
Yeah. Well, if this was going to, what type of subgenre would this be then? Psychological?
Monster movie, 100%.
Monster? Yeah.
I think monster movie is actually a really great description because like this shark is greatly exaggerated in its size and even the way it attacks people because we know now that sharks don't really like the taste of people. Like, yes, there are shark attacks and whatnot. 95% of the time, it's mistaken identity for like a seal or something like that. And this shark is like, it does not care. It's going after people. And I think that that's where the horror element comes into it because this thing is, it's not just doing shark things because it is doing things that it really shouldn't be doing.
Right. Now, and the funny thing is, Jess, or actually, I think, James, you brought it up. The thing that I find fascinating, and this is something that I don't know if you could ever know the answer to, which is if the shark did work, right? If it didn't have all those mechanical problems and Spielberg didn't have to shift gears and be like, you know what? We're going to use the barrels and that the barrels is going to be in place of the shark and we're going to have what you don't see because that's scarier. Would it have been as good? You know,
so I'm gonna take that question out later on.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Do you want to address it later?
No, please. This is perfect.
No,
Okay.
I you know what? I gotta say that I think things worked out exactly the way they were supposed to, and it made. And Brad, I mean, you know it. We're both filmmakers. The best changes come from those snap decisions in the moment.
Sure.
When you have to adjust, and 9 times out of 10 when you have to adjust, you're adjusting and making something better.
Mhm.
than your original vision. At least I know that's the case for me when I've been on set doing stuff. So I think if you know Joe Alves had handed off the Sharks and been like, "Yep, work perfect, no problems," I don't think we would have gotten as good of a movie, and I don't think it would have
Mm-mm.
been as memorable. I really don't. I
Yeah.
No.
think the Shark would have gotten overused, and he wouldn't have had to rethink the pacing of the film and how
Mm.
much to hold the shark back, because that is what makes a monster movie scary. It's not
Right.
about how much you show; it's about how much you don't show.
Right.
So, no, I gotta say, I do not think it would have been as good of a film.
No, I think it,
More shark.
yeah, I think the less shark, the better. I think it worked out great the way
Matter
it
of
was.
fact, we got some sequels that got a whole lot more shark,
Exactly.
and I mean,
Yeah. The less shark, the better,
the less
obviously, from
shark,
the
I
the
feel
better.
like,
sequels. Yeah.
I mean, Captain Steve, your podcast.
Yeah.
I imagine you've run across so many movies where the shark is like top to bottom, like where you just see the shark from the first frame to the last.
Yeah, there's a lot of movies like that, but there's also a surprising amount of movies that will try to hide it and
Mhm.
not for any good reason other than
Mhm.
they're like, hey, Jaws did it, so we can do it. And I'm like, just because Jaws, and I would even say Alien, they do the same thing where
Mhm.
we have the monster hidden in the darkness most of the movie until we do eventually see it and build up that tension. And I know Roger Corman used to like to do this. He used to like hiding the monsters until like the very end of the movie almost. And
Mhm.
I'm like, that works sometimes, but we don't always need to do it. And there's too many movies nowadays, at least that I've watched recently with shark movies, where they're doing this. And I'm like, but we're building up to a terrible CGI shark. Like, why
Yeah.
are we doing this? Whereas, like, this movie, like the practical sharks, like, I know people always say, "Oh, the shark looks so fake." I'm like, this shark looks really good for 1975 for a
Oh, without a
practical
doubt.
shark that's in seawater. I'm like, this is incredible. Like, this
Hmm.
looks really good. And I do think if they showed the shark more, we would have ended up with either a much worse movie or some B movie schlock that would have tanked in 1975, but we
Yeah.
would have looked back on it today with like it would have had like more of a cult following instead of just like I would just say Jaws has a following. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Mhm. It'd be
Yeah.
like
This.
Piranha or something.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. I think that is actually a great allegory. It would be like another piranha.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
perfect.
I just rewatched Piranha like last week, so
Really?
it's
Nice.
fresh in my mind. Yeah.
Do you all remember maybe the first time you saw Jaws, and I don't mean to say how it changed your life, but how it changed your life?
Whoever
I
wants.
do not remember the first time I saw Jaws at all. Like, it's funny, it's a very funny thing because I'm pretty old, and so I remember I grew up in southeastern Massachusetts, and Jaws was on in the summertime,
Hmm.
literally like every day. Like you could find Jaws in the summertime on some channel every single day, and so I don't have a memory of watching it for the first time.
Yeah.
It was just sort of always there. Like I
Yeah.
always watched it. I remember every time I think of remembering watching it, it never felt like that was the first time I saw it. So I have no idea when the first time I saw it. I knew I was really, really young.
Yeah. I looked it up earlier. It premiered on TV in 1979.
Yeah, so I had to have watched it on TV somewhere in that area, but I don't remember like the first like in the
Yeah.
same way like I remember the first time I saw Raiders of the Lost Ark. Like I
Yeah.
remember sitting in the theater watching that, but I don't remember where I was when I originally saw Jaws. But I know it had a huge effect on me.
Yeah.
So
I got it. I still have it here, the VHS copy.
Oh my goodness.
It's a
ooh.
letterboxed edition too, so you try watching that on an HD TV and it looks absolutely terrible. But yeah, I got that for Christmas one year because my parents thought it would be something I liked because I've always been into movies like ever since I was a kid,
Hmm.
and then eventually got all of the sequels on VHS as well.
Oh my goodness
Um,
gracious.
Wow.
yeah. But yeah, I think I was about 8 or 9 when I first saw it, watching it on a tiny TV
Hmm.
in my bedroom. And after that, I was absolutely terrified of
Mhm.
any body of water.
Yep.
Going camping and swimming in the lake, I would still go swimming in the lake, but every time I would dive underwater swimming around, I always had Jaws in the back of my fucking head. I'm like,
Yeah.
there's gonna be a shark in here, it's gonna get me. And
Yeah,
I wouldn't let
somehow it got
anybody
in the
know that, but
lake.
like that was always in my head.
Yeah.
I was 3 years old.
Holy shit.
Holy Christ.
My mother was, she's awesome, but responsibility.
To be fair, it was a PG movie.
Exactly.
PG.
It is rated PG, yeah.
Yep.
Even though you
And
get
actually, that's not that bad.
I
I was just in the theater 2 weeks ago, and beside me, it's like some kids came in, and I'm always pissed off when kids come into a theater. And this girl was probably like 8 or 9. She probably had her sister there with her, who may have been like 13, 14, maybe a little bit younger. But we were watching Hard Eyes.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
geez.
Yeah, and I was very surprised. But then, like, they were so into it, and like they were participating in the movie where like you expect horror fans to participate in a movie. And I'm like, I think this is the first time I've been sat next to a child in a theater and haven't been pissed off the entire time.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
There should be an
Yeah.
age limit for movie theaters.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no,
Just throwing that out there, Jaws or not.
Yeah.
She actually took me to, it was like a drive-in triple feature when Jaws 3 came out.
Oh.
It was Jaws, Jaws 2, Jaws 3.
Oh, that must have been insane to watch
was-
like that.
I mean, I was 3. I don't remember much. I was told this secondhand years later.
Okay.
But it sparked a fascination in me not only with Jaws, but with sharks, with horror movies,
Mhm.
with it really steered my life in a totally different direction where now, like 41 years later, I'm making movies.
Yeah.
Like that really was probably the clandestine moment that made me a horror fan, like the whole nine. Because it didn't stop there. Then it was like, well, those were awesome. What else you got? And then it was like I think Nightmare on Elm Street was like 2 years later, like, and it just went from there. I was at the video store every weekend spending my allowance. So
See, mine
I mean,
was
I think-
like yours. It was always just around.
Yeah.
Jaws was just always in the background. And prior to that, like I used to go in the water. I used to go swimming. Like,
I don't do that either.
yeah, I used to want to be a marine biologist. That like Hooper was when I was young enough, Hooper was like my dream. Like I wanted to be Hooper when I grew up.
Mhm.
And then I realized like I don't want to get in the water for it though. So I'm
Yeah,
more
you gotta
Brody.
you gotta be if you're gonna be a marine biologist, you gotta be able to dive in and check the
Yeah.
hull of the boat
You-
because you want to see something.
Yeah,
You
it's only
gotta-
an
yeah, I
island
gotta
if you
do
look
that,
at it from
man.
the water. Like, what are you going to
Right.
do? I can't. I
You're
got
gonna
too
be the one
nervous
to take the tooth the size of a shot glass out the rectal of a
and
boat.
then drop it.
Yeah.
No, Jaws was just it's so all encompassing. If you live in it, I guess it is for people watch it everywhere. But when you grow up in Massachusetts, you're like, I can take a boat and go see where they filmed it. Like it's kind of more prevalent in your day to day life because you feel like this pride. Like I'm from where Jaws is.
Yeah. Well,
Jaws
also
is
like
part
you
of
know,
our culture.
yeah,
Yes.
and like you're swimming if you're going to the beach, like if you're in southeastern Mass, so I used to go to Horseneck Beach, which is
Yeah.
in New Bedford, Mass, and that's the same waters that Jaws was filmed in, right? Like it's
Yeah.
like that's the same waters. That's a couple miles away. So
It's crazy to
had
think.
it had a very distinct connection with us. And I know, I mean, this is, when you're a kid, you have all the irrational stuff. Like just to bring it to completely absurd and how much this movie scared the shit out of me as a child and how it's like, I mean, I went into the water a little bit, but I wouldn't go any further out than like my waist or whatever in the ocean.
Oh, that's deep. That's even
And then-
that's crazy deep.
Well, our waists are different levels, Jess.
Yes, true. Those are that shoulder for me.
Yeah, so like I remember I grew up in the 80s, and I had what was big at the time, a waterbed. So when I was a kid, I had a waterbed, and there were times when I would close my eyes at night, and if you kind of like float a little bit on the waterbed. Trust me, it was a big thing in the 80s. and it would freak me out. Like I would imagine the idea that I'm floating on a raft
Oh
in
shit.
the middle of the ocean.
Yeah.
And there were literally times my mom would come in my room the next day and I'd be sleeping on the floor. And she would just be like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Ah," and I'd give her like some
Yep.
nonsense excuse. But there were more than a few times that I had to just sleep on the floor because I just couldn't close my eyes in my bed without thinking of a shark. It was crazy.
That movie has wrecked a whole generation of
It
people,
really
hasn't it?
has. Yeah.
Wow.
Multiple generations of people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say. Let's see here. Let's scroll back up. I'm trying to get rid of that question that Brad asked
Sorry.
earlier, but that's okay.
Sorry.
And I'm kind of glad to have like you guys are able to explain these much more eloquently than I can. So these questions, I'm glad I put some of these in here. I was like, I don't want to get too crazy, but let's get crazy tonight, guys. So the opening sequence in Jaws pretty much sets the tone for the entire film. It's played against the casual atmosphere of the beach party and it establishes a sense of unease and anticipation. The violence of the opening scene, even though we really don't see the shark, still lets us know there's something in the water right from the beginning of the movie. So the music unequivocally means shark pretty much for the rest of the movie. Do you think that this changed the way that filmmakers maybe saw the ability to use music as a placeholder for an antagonist in a movie after Jaws premiered? James, you look very yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think as a filmmaker, we've talked about this too at length, I think, in the last episode, how important music is to me, to the score, the soundtrack. But especially in horror, using the music, like if you think about it, even before that, there really wasn't like iconic
Yeah.
film music like that used in that way to represent the character of the antagonist, which the antagonist being a 25-foot shark in this case. um but you think about everything that followed, like immediately after that: Halloween, Friday the 13th,
Yep.
so on, so on, so on. And every time those themes are used to represent the monster, whether it
Yep.
be Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees, whatever. So I definitely think that was a corner that the whole film industry turned, especially in the scary side of things, where that represented the actual character.
Yeah.
And I think it's a fantastic change because frankly, it gives you options that probably weren't as prevalent before, where you can lead an audience even further where you want them to go before you deliver a scare or vice versa.
That's
So
because
yeah,
I
no, I
wasn't
think
sure, like, were there themes prior to Jaws as
there were
powerful?
there were, but they were definitely not used as effectively.
Yeah.
Like there was Tubular Bells for Exorcist,
Yeah.
which was 73. That's the one that really sticks out in my mind right
Mhm.
now. There was definitely iconic films music before Jaws, but I think again, I mean, I don't think anybody can deny John Williams is just an absolute genius.
Yeah.
I don't think it was ever used as effectively before Jaws, and I don't. I would argue it probably hasn't been used as effectively since either.
No.
But but it definitely turned the corner in how music and film coalesce. I think that's absolutely true.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, I would say that like, this whole movie is one happy accident, even right down to the music, because Steven Spielberg didn't even take it seriously when he first heard the score. Like he thought it was a joke,
Yeah.
and he didn't even want to use it. And like, I'm trying to imagine this movie without that iconic Jaws score, and I'm just like, I don't even know how that would work, to be honest, because like you said, like it represents this character, and then we see this emulated in slasher movies later on in the 80s. And I would even argue that Jaws 2 is actually a slasher movie too. But yeah, no, the score is just so goddamn iconic. Like I can't get enough of it. Like it's just, I think the simplicity of it is what
Mhm.
makes it great. It's not overly complicated, but it gives you that sense of suspense.
Yeah, and I totally agree. And I would say, James, to your point, I can't think of anything prior to Jaws where, I mean, obviously they would have scores where it'd be like a certain character's theme, right? Where
Yeah.
it'd be when this character comes on screen, there would always be some sort of theme for that person in some way. But I can't think of one where it was the antagonist. It was music specifically for the antagonist, and maybe there was, but I don't know. Like I think of like Rosemary's Baby. I think of like The Omen. I think of The Exorcist, things like that.
Yeah, but
And
those are
they
associated with the
had,
movie
yeah,
as a
those are more
whole.
associated with the film versus
Yeah.
with one specific character, and more specifically the antagonist of the film. The thing that I think makes the Jaws score also so fascinating and so interesting is the difference between the shark music, but then also the overall score in general, like
Hmm.
the different gradient levels that it goes down. Where one of my favorite pieces of music in Jaws is when they're in the boat and they're chasing the shark down with they've got a couple barrels on them and they're chasing him down, and it's this very like exciting adventure joyful
Yeah.
music. And like to me, that is always something that I look at as an example of you can't have an entire movie like if you just did that entire movie wall to wall with this like shark music and variations of this sort of downward dour shark music, it would lose its ability to kind of be effective. And so
Yeah.
one of the things that I think that makes that movie so great is, obviously John Williams is amazing, but his score kind of covers so many different emotional kind of emotional like tapestries that he taps into. So like you have these moments where when they're chasing the shark down, it is a happy, adventurous music that is like, yeah, I feel like I'm on board with this. Like
Yeah.
I'm on the orca. I'm with them. I'm chasing the shark down. We're all part of this thing. Obviously, it goes sideways, but like, I just think that kind of difference between the score is what makes it even more impressive. Is that it's not just like a one note thing.
Yeah. The
Yeah, and
scene.
it like lets our guard down too,
Yeah.
right? So like we're all very excited. We're not like scared anymore. We're like, yeah, they're gonna get this thing. And then like later on, like Quint's death is like so violent, and like the way the
Mm.
shark attacks the boat is like so intense after just watching like all this like fun like adventure scenes and whatnot. And I have to say, Brad, I think you accidentally said John Wayne when you meant to say John Williams, and
Did I
I'm
say
just
John Wayne?
picturing
Oh.
John Wayne composing music. All right, Pilgrim, let's get this shark out of here.
Now, you know what's interesting about that too, Steve, is you bring up the final reel basically with Quint getting killed, and then it's the absence of music there that makes that so intense,
Mm.
right?
Yeah,
Because you don't have an actual score playing for most of that part. It's just
Mm.
like that kind of heartbeat sound that's kind of
yeah.
low tone at the bottom, and it's just Brody and the fish. And I always thought that was like the most brilliant thing is that the music builds up when on the final charge, and you get this epic crescendo when he finally hits the damn gas tank and blows the shark up. But for that whole beginning part, like, and I think that makes Quint's death 10 times more violent and 10 times more harsh because there's nothing but just crunching sounds and
Mhm.
screaming,
And
and
It
screaming
feels
and
real.
it
yeah.
feels real. It feels real. Like you could say the shark looks fake all you like, but in that immediate moment, you don't notice. You do
However
not
fake that
notice.
shark looked, it ruined all of us, so it worked.
Yeah.
You know?
That perfect moment when it bounds on the
Hmm.
ship, takes Quentin. It's brutal, it's visceral, and it's the absence of music in that particular moment that makes it so. Ugh.
How do you think the movie would have ended had Brody not hit that tank?
Um,
He's
he would
dead.
have. Well, I mean, if you read the novel, he would have had a heart attack and just sank down. So it's
Mhm.
fine.
All right. I always wondered that. I was like, I wonder if they had any other option other than him nailing
Oh,
that tank.
that's the ending of the novel.
No, in the book, yes, but I mean movie wise. So do
Part
you
that
see the book and the movie for whoever's read the book? Do you see those as two separate entities since
have to be. They have
yeah,
to be. They're not the
okay.
same story.
No.
There's so much, like it's been a long time since I've read the novel. I'm gonna read it again at some point for the podcast, but like, there's some like stark differences. Like
Yeah.
if I remember right, I think Hooper has an affair with Brody's
Yes.
wife at one
Yeah.
point,
The
and the
Ellen
reason
Brody-
that the mayor wants to keep the beaches open is because like he owes money to the mafia
Yeah.
and all of that. And I mean, like that would have been a completely different movie if they had added all of that stuff in. And I'm really glad that they took that stuff out because I feel like that would have just been too much for like what this movie should be.
Sexy Ellen Brody brings all the boys to the yard.
with her black turtleneck sweater.
She looked extremely. If you read Peter Benchley's description, she was extremely different looking.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like,
Take a
how
gander on
different
that
look-
Kindle because
much more to a bombshell kind of feel.
yeah. But it makes sense.
I can't imagine Brody hooking up with like some bombshell air.
Yeah, but
Brody was
picture
also
Brody
like
wasn't
15
Brody.
years younger.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was
Oh,
a young
jeez.
police chief. He was like in
Yeah.
his like early 30s.
Although to be fair, I think Roy Scheider was like 32. Like everyone just looks like they're 45 in that
Yeah.
movie.
I know people lived rougher back then, man.
Yeah.
They really beat
Wait.
the crap out of themselves.
Like that's like in Jaws where it's like the kids want to go into the water and they ask their parents and their parents are like bringing them to the water and the parents look like they're 67 years old.
Well, look at
and they're
Mrs.
bringing
Kittner.
5-year-olds.
She does
I was just
not
gonna say
look-
Mrs. Kittner. Oh my god, I thought she was
Mother
like
of
the
an 8-year-old
grandmother.
child. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. When
And
I was
I
younger,
remember
that was the grandmother, not the mother.
Like the
Yeah.
last time I watched Jaws, I looked the actress up, and I think she was in her early 40s or something. Like
Mrs.
she
Kittner?
wasn't- Mrs. Kittner. She wasn't that
Yeah.
old. It's just people lived harder.
I am Mrs.
Yeah.
Kittner's age right now, pretty much. Put it that way. That's
Yeah.
crazy to think.
It's I'm telling
Oh my
you, it's
God.
a mixture of like, booze, cigarettes,
No sunscreen, probably.
Yeah.
absolute zero sunscreen. They were putting cooking oil on.
I still live that life
crispy,
though, so it's got to be something else.
lack of antibiotics in the milk. I don't know.
Yeah, it's. I just think
Something's up because people are not aging like they used to.
no.
Not
No.
now.
I'm still on the fact that Mrs. Kittner was 40. Let me find another question because that's crazy to me right
I
now.
don't- yeah, she was like I can't remember how old she was, but she's a lot younger than I anticipated.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
every
was-
time I hear that fact, I'm still just like, oh yeah, that's right. She's not as old as she looks.
Right.
No,
Like
she
she is
was-
actually
Wild.
age appropriate for having like a 13-year-old boy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a MILF in Jaws.
Ah, I don't
Yeah,
know.
all right, for the day,
Let's
for the
not.
day, for back in the day. Let's move on. So when the three are out on the Orca, the cinematography captures the vastness of the ocean, showcasing both the beauty of the open sea and the terror that lies beneath the surface. So when do you think the scales tipped and it was kind of known to us that they had lost control, like to the forces of nature, which were represented by the shark? Is there a scene where you can say they're in over their heads? No pun intended.
I would say the moment we see that first barrel go under the water, because by all means, it shouldn't be able to go under the water with the barrels attached in this world. So I feel like the moment that it does that, and then like the moment they attach like 2 barrels to it and it still goes under, I think that's when we realize that the scales have tipped, in my opinion.
I think for me it's around the time it's the moment Quint's brain breaks, which is when they get the third barrel on him and he's like he can't go down with 3 barrels, not with 3 barrels he can't, and then he does, and there's that close-up shot of Quint where he's like looking around the water, and it's like, to me, that is the moment. That's the moment where his brain breaks and he's like, we are fucked. And like right after that is when he starts pushing the engine and he starts doing
Yep.
and he's like, we're gonna lead him back to the shallows, we'll bring him into the shallows and drown him. We're going in, Brody. Like that kind of, like, that's the moment where I think it really kind of breaks of like, oh, this is something that nobody has seen.
Yeah.
This is like an experienced sharker. He's been sort of pretty calm the entire way. And then that's the moment where like when the biggest man in the room like breaks down, that's when you're like, oh no, we're in trouble.
Yeah.
That's probably
also,
when his like PTSD starts kicking in.
yeah,
Hmm.
right, right.
Uh, I don't disagree with either one of those. I think that that entire degradation, the entropy of watching their hopes and their confidence just slowly wither,
Yeah.
and it all kind of. But I think for me, the triggering moment is when Brody goes to call for help, and Quint comes in with the bat and smashes the radio.
Hmm.
Where I'm like, okay, they're not only is it coming apart at the seams, but they're turning on each other now.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Like Quint is saying, "No, I'm in charge," and it's almost I equate it to bring up a different movie, but in The Dark Knight Rises, when the banker, is like, "I'm in charge," and then Bane just puts his hand on his shoulder and is like, "Do you feel in charge?"
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
it's that moment to me. It's that same kind of thing where they just have this dynamic of, well, I'm the guy that's got to call, we need help out here. And he's like, fuck your help.
Yeah.
And he really cuts them off from even having that option. And to me, that's probably, but the whole process really, it's a slow thing that happens there over that like 45 minutes or so. But
Do you know
yeah,
the scene where the shark, it's like an overhead scene and they all rush to the side of the boat and the shark comes out and you just see it in all its glory.
oh yeah,
Flippers. To me, it's right there. I think they get a full length of the shark. They see something they've never been up against. And they're screwed. Like they finally have gotten the full vision of what is waiting for them or what they actually said they were going to take on.
well,
And
think
it's
about,
a beautiful shot.
yeah, it's a wonderful shot, but think about the line there too. With Hooper, it's like, that's a 20-footer.
Mm-hmm.
Then Quint, 25, 3 tons of them. You think he's saying that with experience, but he's not. I've always pictured that as he's saying that with severe concern because he's never seen that before,
Mm-mm.
right? No one has. Like, it's not a real thing. 25-foot long great white sharks are not. They don't exist. So, but you're not wrong. I like I said, I think this the whole entire process from that moment to the moment that Quint's driving, going, "We're gonna bring him in and drown him" because he lost his mind. That whole
Yeah.
thing is just an absolute breakdown of both communication and operation in every way, functional way possible.
What is, I guess, the best shot in the movie to you guys? Because I think mine was when you finally see that shark come out from under the boat and you see it in all its beautiful, amazing glory. I mean, there's a lot of them, but that I think sticks out to me.
That's hard.
I know.
Yeah, that's a tough one. There's a lot of really like good shots in this movie. Like the cinematography is actually
Mhm.
amazing in this movie. I do think that shot is like one of the most probably powerful shots in the movie because like we all experience it for the first time with
Mhm.
the characters, the full scale of this monster, because before we don't really see how big this is. We don't really get much of a glimpse of it at all, other than like some fins and like some quick shots. But now we get to see like what we're really up against, and I think like that's a pretty powerful shot. But one shot that I really like, and it's a couple back and forth, it's like the zoom in on Brody when Alex is attacked in the
Oh, I love
water.
that. The dolly
Between
zoom
those
shot or
two
whatever it's called.
shots,
Yeah.
it's such a shift in everything that's been going on. Like those two things combined together are probably one of my favorite moments of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, even though, because we do actually get, there is the one shot before then where we get at least a decent look at the size of him, which is when creepy Fisher guy,
Oh yeah. The
Right,
hey, you
when they're in
guys
the
okay
pond.
over there?
and
Yeah.
it is an overhead shot as
Yeah.
well, and you see the shark come in and like kind of grab him and pull him down.
Yeah.
So
That's
you
the
do
most
kind of get a
violent
sense, yeah, you do kind of
shark
get a
attack,
sense
I
of his
think.
size, but that one shot in the boat is the first time you see him like full scale, right? Like,
Hmm.
from the dorsal to the tail kind of thing. Like
The
you get to
head, the
see
tail,
like,
the whole damn thing, if
yeah,
you
you
will.
get to
Yeah.
see it from the top down. It just looks so massive, even though you
Hmm.
did, but even still, like it is, like you said, you are experiencing it with them for the first time, even though you kind of get a good sense of it here and there.
Yeah.
But I mean, there are so many like iconic, amazing shots in this movie. I mean, I gotta, this might be easy, but like, I gotta say you know, come down here and chum some of this shit. You know,
Yeah.
that shot where the head pops out of
Yeah.
the water
Yeah.
and he throw because it's like it's out of focus and you're on Brody and it kind of comes up in the background and so it's just such a great moment in film that is perfect and so I do love that shot.
I'm a sucker for being I guess being a horror guy. I'm a sucker for something that's really visceral and makes me cringe. So really, if for me, it's the Quint death. It's
Yeah.
that whole like it's right on the water level, even though you're in the boat, so you're still getting
Mm,
that effect at that level, and it's just like the snap and the crunch and the desperation in his voice, like
mm,
Oh, he
that
sells it
whole
so well. Like Robert
Yeah.
Shaw sells that death so fucking good because like you really feel like he's dying in that scene, and it
yeah.
and like like James was saying when there's no music in that scene either,
mm.
um, because like you're just hinged on Shaw's performance in that moment.
Yeah, but just the visceral, up close, gritty. It almost has it's before it even was a thing, but a Cannibal Holocaust quality to the filmmaking because it
Hmm.
almost feels handheld because it's bobbing in the water.
Yeah.
It's got that natural feel to it, and it's just so visceral and raw and
That
brutal.
blood spit was
The
amazing.
blood spit, like
Yeah.
I mean, even like the detail, like even the detail of like the machete going
Hmm.
into the fish, like everything about that shot, just that one perfect crunch was
Mhm.
like, oh,
Quint
and
fought to the bitter end.
he did,
He
he did.
really did, man.
Ahab did what Ahab did.
He did what he. Do you think? And I know this is going to be. Don't. I feel like don't pounce. Could Jaws ever be remade? I know. You know. I know. I feel obviously no, but could Jaws be remade? Is the question.
Could it be remade? Sure. Should it be?
Yeah.
No. But um I it's kind of like for me like Jaws and Back to the Future are like two movies that I picture that I'm just like if you were to remake this, it wouldn't have it wouldn't have the same impact
Mhm.
that it did. And I feel like you couldn't tell those stories nowadays and have the same impact on the culture that those two movies did. And there's lots of other movies too. Those aren't the only two, but those are just like two from like my childhood that I picture. And I'm just like, you could remake Jaws. I mean, you could even follow the book more closely if you wanted to. Why would you? I
Yeah.
don't know. Hollywood's done dumber things, so you never know. But I don't think that they should. I mean, and I'm sure somebody could make a compelling shark movie out of a Jaws remake, but I just don't think it would have the same impact and it would feel pointless. Like they should just make a different shark movie. You can take
Hmm.
a lot of inspiration from Jaws if you want, as most shark movies do,
As yeah.
and you can still make something scary. But I don't think it should. I don't think it's something that should be remade.
No, I don't see the point in it, right?
Yeah.
Like for me with everything, I mean everything's getting remade now in general. And so for me the point of being remade is if you're bringing something that either wasn't available at that time or can bring up a different perspective or a different something that was not available at that time. I mean, you could argue that Jaws is a perfect movie. I mean, not saying like the best movie ever, but it's the perfect. It did everything it needed to do perfectly. And so, how do you can't really improve on that? I feel like you get into kind of like what Captain Steve was talking about, where it's like you end up being like, all right, well, what do? They maybe adapt the book a little more closely, and sure, could they do it? But it would just sort of come and go. It wouldn't be like an iconic film. I don't care how good it is. It just won't happen. I think of like Total Recall, right?
Hmm.
They did that with Total Recall a few years ago, where you had the original Arnie one, and then they're like, oh, we're gonna remake Total Recall, but we're gonna make it closer to the story. And then it kind of just comes out, and it's like, it's very like whatever. It just because it just doesn't have the impact because
Hmm.
it just doesn't. I feel like with Jaws, it's the same way. You're not gonna get those perfect pieces to come together in the way that they
Yeah,
did. It is a lightning in a bottle
without a
kind of
doubt.
movie,
Yeah, it was a
and
right place,
so
right time
it's just
movie.
not possible. Yeah,
Yeah.
The thing, Jaws is as much a product of adjusting for its mistakes as it is nailing what it got right.
sure.
So, like Brad said, it's a lightning in a bottle situation. You can't recreate that kind of magic twice. You just can't.
No, and it's funny because they haven't. So I think they know that.
I think there is like a unholy blacklist of films that they just know they shouldn't touch.
Mhm.
The Exorcist, Jaws, so on, so on, so on, so on. Like there's a bunch of movies on there that
Yeah.
I probably don't really care too much about. Just leave The Exorcist and Jaws alone. Even though they tried to remake The Exorcist, I don't know what they're doing with Exorcist anymore. It was bad. But yeah, no, there's like this list, like Jaws, The Exorcist, Back to the Future's on mine as well.
Schindler's List.
Schindler's
Schindler's
List.
List, sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really don't know why anyone would want to go back there
Yeah.
again. But and just like general like just big no movies that are just were they got really right the first time that they really shouldn't do again.
So
Yeah, and
did
I think God, I'm sorry,
I'm
Jess.
sorry. No, this is just this is just I had did Steven Spielberg do Back to the Future? I've never seen Back to the Future.
He
No.
produced it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Because I'm
Robert
wondering if
Zemeckis
it's
Zemeckis.
directed
like
it.
Steven
Yeah.
Spielberg movies that they're just like untouchable.
Yeah,
No, I mean I think also it's like not to get cynical, but the world is a different place when Jaws came out in 1975. So like it wouldn't even if you made an amazing Jaws movie, right? You come out with an awesome shark movie, it might be great and maybe it'll make a decent amount of money, but it would sort of be a bit more of a throwaway than anything else, right? Like because like there are movies that are made all the time now that make a shitload of money
Yeah.
and then they're forgotten. You know what I mean? Like it's just we're so kind of there's just so many movies released now. It's impossible to have the kind of impact that something like a Jaws had back then, where there just weren't that many movies like that.
Hmm.
Whereas now you can go on to Tubi and you can find thousands of movies that for whatever quirk you're into, right? So it's just like it sort of lessens it, it dilutes it a little bit. And so I just don't think it's possible to recreate that kind of atmosphere.
Yeah. And you're not going to get full frontal nudity in a PG movie like they did back then either. So
no, you're not.
the
But
opening's going to be a bit different.
to that point too, like Brad said, when you have something the way movies work now and the way theatrical runs work now, a movie only gets like 2 weeks
Yeah.
Right.
in a theater. At a month, the absolute most, and that's if they're really trying to milk every dollar they can, trying to make their budget back. Jaws was in the theater for 18 months.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
mean, they don't
It
do that anymore.
no, it shocked me how
Movies,
long it was before it got brought like to even TV for people to
yeah,
see it.
movies used to have these absolutely insane theatrical runs because there were just that
Hmm.
much less going
And not
on.
to mention, like, it's literally the first summer blockbuster. Like, there
Yeah.
were not, they didn't release big movies in the summertime because they just felt like they wouldn't make money or whatever. And then Jaws comes out and just, like, breaks all the records and all of that. And so, again, like, I don't think you're going to get that same kind of impact if you were to try to remake this movie, like, culturally. And
No.
even going back to the cultural aspect of it, a lot of information about the USS Indianapolis wasn't known when the book was written, but when the movie came out, like there was the trials and everything that were finally released and all that. And so, like, I think having Quinn's speech in that was also like so culturally impactful for people at the time that, like, even just that little moment there, like, you could never recreate that moment
No.
right now. At least not right now. Maybe in the future, sure, but at least in my opinion, not right now.
No.
Yeah,
And that,
and correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't the summer like kind of a dumping ground for movie
yeah.
theaters back then? Where like they looked
Basically,
at the summer as being like, oh, everyone's out at the beach,
Yeah.
no one's going to go to the movie theaters. Like that's where they would
Yeah,
put all the movies that wouldn't do that they didn't think were going to really do all that well.
yeah.
yeah,
Jaws completely flipped that around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Completely. Now our dumping ground is January to March.
January. Yeah.
Yeah.
It really is. That's where all the crap comes out, or the stuff they don't think is going to make a lot of money. A lot of horror movies come out this time of year, actually. Um,
Night
but
Swim.
no, yeah, Jaws changed all of
Uh,
that. I mean, Jaws, without Jaws, we don't have Star Wars. Let's just call it what it is. It's the truth. If Jaws didn't open the door for the summer blockbuster,
mhm.
2 years later, Lucas doesn't make the money he makes for Star Wars. He might have. I still think it would have been a massive impact in the world, obviously, but it's the 1-2 punch from 75 to 77 that just changed the game completely. Completely.
So you mentioned Quint's speech earlier. So I have a question regarding Quint's speech because I know, Brad, you mentioned this once, I think maybe 20 some odd years ago, we had this discussion.
Okay.
When
Jog your
Quint,
memory, buddy.
when Quint uses the line, that's the time when I was most frightened, waiting for my turn. What was he referring to? Waiting for his turn to get eaten or waiting for his turn to get rescued?
Yes.
Okay.
I think he was really inferring to really an as above so below situation. Like he's like, I'm either getting eaten by a shark or I'm getting picked up by this helicopter. One of them's gonna happen before the other. I really think he meant waiting for his turn to go either way, which is
Yeah,
probably
whatever
why
his
he was
fate
most,
was.
yeah, whatever his fate might be. Because if you think about it, that's when I'd be most afraid too, is when rescue's right there
Hmm.
and you don't know if you're gonna get it or not. Because before the helicopters showed up, I'm sure he was seeing people getting ripped apart left and right by these sharks and going, I'm dead.
Yeah.
Oh, it's gonna suck, but this is how it goes. And then the helicopters show up, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, but I still might be dead. Like it's,
So you think
yeah,
it can go either way?
I think it could have gone either way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember the conversation that we had 20
It was
something.
literally like you brought it up and my mind was blown. I was like, oh my God, what was he waiting for?
In the ancient times.
I mean,
Yes.
honestly, I've always thought of it as waiting for his turn being picked up. Like because I imagine a scenario where, you're in the water for a week or whatever he's in the water for, and you're seeing everyone die, and almost like I imagine there to be, well, there's no hope. We're all gonna die, and kind of everything being like, well, it's over. But then when a ship comes and it starts picking people up, like to me, that is more terrifying because that's when you now have a spark of hope. And it's like, oh, when is my turn to get on the boat? And it's like, am I going to be able to get there? And like that always to me rang as like the more terrifying scenario where you're in the water, you've just experienced this crazy thing, and now you are mere minutes from being rescued, and rescue is right there. It's within your grasp. And the idea of it, like, am I going to be able to get there? Like, that's where it is, like, it would be the most tense for me.
Captain.
Yeah, I have to agree with pretty much everything James said. Like, yes to both. Like, he's waiting for his turn for whatever his fate might be, and I don't think he knew what it was going to be, and he's just waiting to see what it is, whether that's rescue or death.
All right. All right.
I mean, he definitely doesn't put on a life jacket again. That's
No.
for sure.
Yeah,
I always just assumed it was waiting for my turn to get eaten by a shark.
I mean, it could
That
be.
always-
That's not, yeah,
It's
that's
just
not,
so open
yeah,
to
it definitely could
interpretation.
be.
And every day, or not every day, but every time I go in the water, I'm waiting for my turn to get eaten by a shark. So I go back to that line.
yeah.
I mean,
And, like,
Quint's pretty
shows-
okay with gallows humor, Like
Yeah.
he seems like he does that a lot. So
And Shaw was so drunk during that, like who knows what he would probably wouldn't even be able to tell
No.
what exactly he meant by that
That's
line
true.
delivery.
No, and that's why that speech was a 1 in a million. He would never be able to recreate that as drunk as he was. It was
Yeah.
amazing, but so I guess besides the shark, do you have a character that you think made the biggest impact in the movie?
Um, that's really hard. I mean, obviously Quint, because like Quint is just like quintessential. But
Oh, the puns are
Oh,
back, ladies and
we're off.
gentlemen.
We're off and running.
Puns are back.
but I would also argue that like the mayor has a big impact because if he had just agreed to close the goddamn beaches, like
Mhm.
a lot of this bad shit probably wouldn't have happened. The shark may have gotten bored, swam away, gone somewhere else. But it's because of his decision that all of these other events take place. So all of the other deaths are on his hands, like Alex Kittner, Quint,
Yep.
the creepy dude in the boat,
Yep.
like everybody, like that's all on his hands. So like I
Not
think like
forget
that
Pippet.
moment is pretty
Pippet went
impactful.
down too. Let's not
Pippet
just,
is good
let's
I
as
like
not
to think
glaze
that
over
Pippet
poor
had an
Pippet.
abusive owner and he swam away when he saw the opportunity. And so Pippet's just out there living his best life while his owner's like he got eaten in the background.
I always liked that the dog lived in my mind. Pippet didn't get eaten, but he got eaten. I mean, come on.
I actually agree with Steve. It's the mayor. The mayor's the real villain of the movie. Actually, the town in general,
Mhm.
just what the pressure he's under from the town council, and that's it's the greed and the bureaucracy that's the real villain of Jaws, not the shark. The shark just does what sharks do, and they didn't feel like it was important enough to, heed the warning. It's, it's more of a commentary in the book than it is in the movie. The
Yeah.
movie's definitely more blockbuster fare, tighter, but they really get into the weeds of the bureaucracy and the corruption. Like you said, Larry owes money to the mafia and all
Exactly.
that
Yeah.
stuff. They eventually was really trying to hammer home like local government corruption is real and it's a problem, which anybody that's lived in Rhode Island, like from the 90s to the early 2000s, yeah, that's a
Mhm.
thing. But yeah, I think that the shark really gets a bum rap, so to speak, because
Yep.
it really is the town governance that is the bad guy.
Well, it's almost like a disaster movie, right? Where it's like you get into like a earthquake or a volcano or whatever it is, where it's like, yeah, this thing is going to kill a lot of people, but it's the decisions that the other characters that are making that is what's causing the real problem,
Yeah.
you know?
Absolutely.
So like the shark, you can't blame the shark for doing what the shark does. You can only blame the reactions that these people around the shark that are doing that's causing all these other real problems.
Well, that
I mean,
wasn't.
if they just for crying out loud, the thing I always had an issue with is, which bothered me, is they catch the tiger shark and they're totally convinced this is the shark. So Hooper's like, well, let's just cut it open and let's see the little Kittner boy
Mhm.
spill out all over the dock. And not only does the mayor not want to do that, but like, okay, I understand you don't want to see the kids spill out in front of a whole town. Like, just take the shark somewhere else, private, and do an autopsy on
Yeah.
it. Like, why is that? Like, he's just like, oh, go dump it in the drink. And you're like, well, why not just cut it open? Like, what is the
Well,
big
because
deal?
then they would have known it wasn't the shark.
Yeah, like it's like decisions like that where you're like, well,
Yeah.
what the fuck, man? Like, just like I get the idea that you don't want to have this little boy like tumble out of a tiger shark, but you can bring it somewhere else and have an autopsy. You don't have to do it right in front of everybody.
Well, that was the question I had
Did I ruin another one of your questions, Jess?
you have ruined all of my questions. But was Mayor Vaughn correct in keeping the beaches open? Because they had never seen a shark attack to this magnitude. Nobody had. Nobody thought the shark would stick around back when Jaws was made, say.
No.
Well, I think, yeah, go ahead, James. You
I'm
can.
sorry. I'm sorry. I
No,
didn't mean
do
to
it.
jump
Do it
right
up.
in.
I think we want to see the
Um,
same thing. Go ahead.
yeah, no, it's your standard procedure for any shark attack. This is going back a very long time, and it's been more prominent for us because unfortunately the Cape has been living Jaws ever since the BP oil spill, and they all started migrating up here, and now we have great whites. Just are kind of just we're kind of like our own little Australia. It's fun.
Hmm.
So but the standard procedure for any shark attack is you close the beach for 24 hours at minimum.
On
That is
4th of
the
July,
way
though?
it
I mean,
is.
come on. On
That's
4th of July
hardline
weekend?
law. That is Brody was well within his rights to say we're going to close the beaches for 24 hours, and that standard procedure. The second the Kittner kid, because they already had the one,
Yeah.
Chrissy. The second the Kittner kid got attacked too, it would have been no beaches for a week. Like
But that's the whole town. The town, I mean, the shark is pretty much a threat to their profit.
yeah, he is a threat to the profit, but the point being is that's law. That is the actual law, and it has applied as that law for a very long time. So Brody was well within his rights to say 24 hours, and then after the Kittners, he wanted to go much longer with closing the beaches, and they shut him down. They wouldn't even be able to have that shutdown. So like they're every bit in the wrong for not closing those beaches. They every bit are responsible for what happened. Not only after Chrissy, but after Alex Kittner. Nothing should have happened. The beaches should have been frozen. Summer's over, kids. Like that kind of thing.
This would have been a short movie.
Yeah.
Speaking of kids, though, I would also argue that those two kids who wore the cardboard fin and distracted all of those men who were searching for the shark, keeping an eye out for it, because they all converged on those two kids while this shark just swims into the pond. Had those two kids not done that, they may have actually spotted the shark and at least been able to shoot it or, get people out of the water beforehand. So I'm just blaming the children is what I'm doing.
Nowadays, those kids would go to jail for like terroristic threats because they wore a cardboard fin.
Yeah.
Throw the book at
they'd be sent to El Salvador.
Yeah. Those bastards. I still don't quite understand what the pond was.
Well, it was like the estuary.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, it's a very. I always found that weird. We're like, oh, it's in the pond.
All I know is the pond is for babies.
What's that?
The pond is for babies. That's what the pond is for.
Okay.
No, I mean a lot of waters down the Cape, down that area, they have estuaries. They have. I mean, it's not unprecedented to have that kind of like secondary body of water that kind of links with the seawater, but kind of trails off into fresh.
It's got that little brackish mix.
Yeah, it's a brackish water. It takes a special. But here's the thing about that: scientifically, the shark would have drowned.
Yeah, unless it was a bull shark.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a bull shark. Which
that would have been the end of the movie right there. Shark goes in the pond, goes, oh, crap, no, and it just flops over upside down with all these terrified children looking at it. That's how the movie should have ended because it should have died right there.
I mean, the shark does a lot of things it shouldn't have done, but that's what makes it a good movie.
That's fair.
The moment, speaking of which, that moment in the pond, we're talking about cinematography and iconic shots. That actually is also, for me, one of the iconic shots of when you see the tip of the
tip
fin,
and the tail.
The tip and the tail, and you just kind of see them kind of go under, and you get to see the size of it. I think that might be the first time you
get
see
some length.
Tips to tail with Sean in the foreground.
It's such a beautiful shot of like just kind of this gliding through the water, and you just kind of see it just disappear. Like that is a very iconic shot that I always love.
And then the perv gets it, but
yeah, the perv in the jean shorts.
The perv in the jean shorts gets it.
So
I guess
hard accent.
Well, not really. I mean, considering
it's about as New England as it gets.
Yeah. We mentioned Back to the Future earlier, which has a Jaws reference in it. Like I haven't really seen the movie, but I know there's a Jaws reference in it. Is it Back
in
to
the
the Future
second one,
too?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in Back to the
Wait, you
Future too.
haven't
It's
seen
like Jaws
Back to
like
the
Jaws
14 and
19.
3D. Jaws 19, that's it.
There you go.
Yeah.
No, I haven't
Hologram
seen
comes
Back
down,
to the
tries to eat
Future.
Marty, yeah.
How have you not seen Back to the Future?
It just doesn't interest me.
I don't want to derail this into a Back to the Future conversation, but I would like to know how on earth you did not see Back to the Future.
I would also like to know the answer to
I
that
just
question.
it doesn't interest me at all. I don't watch things that don't interest me.
It's a
I've never
very
seen
good
Home
movie.
Alone.
I can't
If we're
I
gonna
can't
completely
argue that
derail,
logic. I can't argue that logic.
yeah,
It's hard to swallow, but at the same time, like if I don't like it, I don't watch it either. So
yeah. I've just never been a Marty
Marty
McFly fan.
McFly.
Yeah, thank
Marty
you. I almost said Marty McFan fan.
Marty McFan.
So along those lines, what do you think is the best Jaws reference outside of Jaws in another movie?
Oh, that is a tough one. I've seen so many, and most of them are so bad and just egregious because it's always like, oh, we're going to need a bigger insert word here. Like,
Yep.
we need a bigger boat, we need a bigger gun, we need a bigger house for House Shark. Like, we need a bigger
I'm sorry,
this
for
and
what?
that.
Back it up.
House
For
Shark?
House Shark. Okay.
House Shark.
Yeah, we're going to need a
Well-
bigger house.
Well, Jesus, I mean, Steve,
That was
you've
a movie.
watched hundreds of shark movies. I gotta believe every single one of those uses
Yeah.
some Jaws reference at some point.
I would say probably like 80 to 90% use
Wow.
a Jaws reference at some point, and a lot of the times it's just super unnecessary.
Mhm.
But I will say I love the subtle ones, and I think one of the best subtle references is in Deep Blue Sea, where they pull the license plate out of the shark's mouth,
Mhm.
and it's the same numbers as the license plate from the tiger shark. Because it's like, it's a nice reference,
Yeah.
and that's all we need. We don't need anything else. It's just like, hey, like, this was a cool movie that came out, definitely inspired this movie, but it's not that movie, but it's like, it's just a nice nod to it. I don't mind a nice little nod here and there, but there's a lot of movies where I'll use Sand Sharks as an example. So that movie, you could almost argue, follows the Jaws book more than Jaws does, because we have the corrupt mayor who owes money to the mafia, and like, that is a theme that actually comes up in a lot of different movies. Even Cruel Jaws, which is also marketed as Jaws 5 in some territories, which they got sued for. But yeah, they do the same kind of storyline where it's like, there's the mafia and the mayor, and they got to close the beaches because there's a shark and blah blah blah. But it's so egregious, and I'm just like, we don't need it. So yeah, I like those little subtle references.
I wrote down House Shark so I can look that movie up later because what? Come on now.
My favorite Jaws nod is not really Jaws. So there was this movie in the 80s called One Crazy Summer.
Mhm.
With John Cusack and Bobcat Goldthwait.
Demi Moore.
Demi Moore. Yeah, goddess herself. And they were shooting a movie on an island it was Nantucket, so it's very similar to Amity. But they're shooting a gag movie within the movie called Foam, and it was about a dolphin with rabies. And it definitely, every scene was very heavily Jaws inspired, that had this like monster dolphin in it. It was hilarious, but that's probably my favorite Jaws reference outside of Jaws in any movie ever. Is it a good one? Not at all. It's pretty blatant, it's corny, but it's hilarious. So
I'm just upset we don't have a movie about a dolphin infected with rabies now, because now that's
I really
all I
want
can
them
think
to
about.
make Foam, right? Like, I've been waiting for this for like 38 years now. Like, where's Foam? That was the best idea I had ever heard. A dolphin with rabies. It sounds
Wait,
great.
did the foam come out of its blowhole too?
Oh yeah, no,
okay,
it did.
all right.
Blowhole,
I mean,
mouth,
of
hole,
course.
nine.
All right.
It was bad.
I'm still waiting for Moose Jaws from Kevin Smith, and I think now would be the perfect time for him to make that movie.
Well, that's where my favorite reference comes from, is Mallrats. T.S. Quint.
Oh yeah,
T.S. Quint wants to propose to his girlfriend when the shark pops out of the Universal ride.
That's great. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of things in Mallrats. Don't they also do a whole conversation about it?
Chasing Amy has one. I mean, Kevin Smith.
Yeah.
All Kevin Smith movies have something in it.
I feel like Kevin Smith hits like 3 movies for references in literally every movie.
Yeah.
Jaws, Star Wars, and comic book stuff.
Yeah.
Like of some variety. Like there usually is something from one of all 3 or something. in all of his movies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a huge Jaws. Like I would trust him with maybe a Jaws-ish type of movie.
Moose Jaws,
Moose
like
Jaws. We
we said,
want Moose
Moose Jaws.
Jaws.
I
Ooh,
want Moose
Do
Jaws.
we though? I mean,
Kevin
Yeah.
Smith.
I mean, after
I,
Yoga Hosers, I have doubts, but
yeah.
I think he can bring it back to Tusk. I don't know.
yeah, I don't know. I am not the biggest Kevin Smith movie fan in general, so I don't know if I would be super on board with that.
No.
I
You
just
have a Jaws reference?
I really don't have a great Jaws reference.
No.
Honestly, like uh, for whatever reason, the first thing that comes to my mind is Lethal Weapon 3 when Mel Gibson and Rene Russo are comparing wounds.
Okay.
Like
oh yeah,
Oh,
that's the only thing
shit. That's
that
a good
immediately
one,
comes
man.
to
That's
mind.
good.
one though.
Wow, that's a deep
Yeah.
cut. I feel like that's a
Yeah.
fucking deep cut. You heard it first, guys. It's fucking deep cut.
All three people that have watched Lethal Weapon 3 in the last 20
No
years.
shit. So, has there been a shark movie that has come close? I mean, nothing's going to equal Jaws. Has there been a shark movie that you've watched that has come close to maybe how Jaws makes you feel in a sense? Like it's a tight, tense shark movie.
No.
I mean,
Nothing?
Jaws 2 actually is pretty good.
Let's take
Jaws
Jaws
is
off
good.
the table completely.
All right, take Jaws off the table entirely.
Yes, and
Um,
its sequels.
I mean, Open Water was pretty terrifying, although that's not really like the same kind of shark movie. Other than that, I don't know. Every time I've seen shark movies, oh, you know what was it? Not Open Water. There was The Reef. The movie The Reef.
Okay,
I thought
I
was
haven't
pretty
seen that one yet.
I like that one. That was like a pretty intense. That's more of a, people like trapped on a tipped over boat, and it's just like it's a shark, but it's not like it's a very normal shark, or it's several sharks. So it's like a little bit more grounded. It's not like, oh, a giant shark, whatever. But that one I thought did a really good job of sort of a shark movie that was well done and executed.
Let's go to the expert here.
Yeah, I feel like Steve's got some.
Honestly, for me, I am such a big fan of Deep Blue Sea. Not that it doesn't feel the same as Jaws, but it's another one of those movies that could have very easily just been another B movie, but they've somehow made something so entertaining and just wonderful that it somehow goes outside of B movie territory, and just it's another fun adventure movie, but we do have like these kind of like creepy moments where the sharks like sneak up on people and things like that, like where LL Cool J is trying to escape the shark in the kitchen or whatever, and it's attacking him in the oven, and just like little moments like that kind of make that movie for me. There's lots of other great shark movies, like definitely The Reef and Open Water are decent ones. I enjoyed The Shallows, but
That was going to be mine. Yeah.
I don't think it's as good as Jaws, and it doesn't really give me the same feeling.
Yeah.
But I do think that is probably one of the top contenders.
Yeah.
Yeah, other than that, I mean, there's definitely a lot of movies that I've enjoyed, like a lot of different shark movies, but to compare with Jaws or that give me the same feeling, yeah, I mean, probably just like Open Water and The Reef come pretty close, because I think they also used a lot of real footage and mixed it in with the movie, which, like it just brings a lot of realism to it. So if you have a fear of water or fear of sharks, then those two movies would definitely do it.
I'm with Steve. My second favorite shark movie is Deep Blue Sea. It's different vibe, definitely a different vibe. It's not the same kind of feeling at all watching that movie, but it's well executed. It's entertaining. It doesn't suck, which a lot of shark movies have that going against them. They do suck. As far as fear goes, it's pretty much right down the line the same. I feel like everybody kind of has the same picks here, like The Shallows, Reef, the whole nine, because they are very well executed shark films. It's just not, you just can't touch Jaws. It's just impossible. I don't think it could ever be done. Like it's it's like Jaws is here, and then like even if you get like here, like you did a great job. Like
Yeah.
you just there's too much of that lightning in a bottle, never happen again magic going on with Jaws to even try to get close.
That's why I was very excited when I first saw Deep Blue Sea, the trailer for that. Extremely excited. I mean, you
Oh, I
know.
remember. Oh, I
Okay.
remember. We saw it. I also remember you almost in tears walking out of the theater.
I know. I was bummed out. Because of Jaws, I have been waiting for the next great shark movie. And I thought maybe Deep Blue Sea was going to be it. And it was not, unfortunately. It's just there was a lot of cheesiness to it that
Of
bummed
course it
me
is.
out.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
then
yeah.
I guess maybe if I watch Jaws again, there's some cheesy parts in it, but I forgive it because it's Jaws.
I mean, Deep Blue Sea, you got LL Cool J,
Yeah, a parrot.
the
Yeah.
parrot
Bird.
comedy relief element is just a little too prevalent in
Yeah.
the movie to actually create any kind of real tension. Even though I will also back up that the scene with LL Cool J in the kitchen is one of the most tense scenes in the movie.
Good scene.
It's a very good scene, locking himself in having to use the stove door while the Mako's going absolutely ham on him. Like it's really well done. But it's also the comic relief. So
Mhm.
you're like, you have all this diffusion that's happened there. Like if it were a different character, I feel like it would have been more intense because you don't have it intercut with him making jokes about the parrot
Yeah.
and where the parrot is and like that kind of stuff. So like the execution's uneven on Deep Blue Sea, but I definitely still think it's one of the more entertaining shark movies all around because when it is executed well, it's executed extremely well, you know? And it just like the attempt at the like we can't talk about Deep Blue Sea and not talk about Samuel Jackson's speech and how absolutely pitch perfect
Yeah.
and the timing of that and just how they absolutely nailed it. I mean, I saw that in the theater
Yeah.
and that like completely caught the whole theater off guard. Everybody was like getting out of their chair, yelling, screaming, laughing. Just it was a perfect moment, and I got to give Deep Blue Sea credit for that because it's very hard to get me to fall out of my chair laughing, but I sure as hell did that day.
What year was that? 2000? 2001?
It's right around there.
98, 99.
98.
So it was made in 98,
Wow.
come out in 99, I think.
Gotcha.
Okay. All right. So it's right in that
Mhm.
that pocket.
Yeah, because it
Mhm.
celebrated its 25th anniversary last year.
Wow. Okay. Well, now that I feel old, let's move on to the next question. So let's see. Well, we'll bring up the Jaws sequel. If you could remove one Jaws sequel from existence, which one would it be?
Oh, we're all gonna have the same answer, I'm sure.
I'm pretty sure we're all going to have the same answer here. It's 4, right?
Oh, I don't think I fucking love Jaws 2 is amazing. That's
Yes.
like I would put Jaws and Jaws 2 almost in the same category. Just
Back.
for like execution and everything.
Mhm.
Jaws 3 and 4 I recognize are terrible movies. I will not argue with anybody and say that they're great. Because they're not. They're not great movies from a technical standpoint. From a writing standpoint, cinematography standpoint, like there's nothing great about them. Do I watch them every year
Yes.
and is entertained by them every year? Yes. I watch them all the time. I am a huge fan of both movies. If I had to pick one to get rid of, I think I would honestly say 4.
Mhm.
Because I love the cheesiness and ridiculousness of Jaws 3D and just how like completely nonsensical that movie is. Like 4 is also nonsensical. But 4 felt like they were trying to bring the series back to a more serious standpoint
Mhm.
with the psychic shark, I guess. But it didn't work. Like it failed miserably and just not in the best way. But again, I still watch it every Christmas or around Christmas time every year because it is a Christmas movie. But yeah, if I had to pick one, like gun to my head, I would say 4. But I'm still very happy with it.
Yeah, that's the one I don't watch. I'll watch 1, 2, and 3 every year. 4 to me it's just the dirty secret. Like,
Well,
it's like,
it reaches so far that it almost gets parody. Like it
yeah,
almost becomes parody of itself because it's just so the premise of it is so ridiculous and absurd that it's like you can't it's hard to take that movie seriously at all. At least as cheesy as the third one is, which it is absolutely super cheesy.
I still
Like
thoroughly enjoy the third one
it
somehow.
still has some good moments, and like when he's trying to hook that grenade in the mouth, like there's some good moments in
Hmm.
three, and it's still like kind of played somewhat down the middle as far as like possible. Whereas I feel like the fourth one just gets so ridiculous.
It,
Uh, the idea that a shark swam from Martha's Vineyard down to the Caribbean to chase Ellen Brody is just kind of it's just right there it like starts and stops with like that.
Yeah.
Like who pitched that and was like, "Yes, that's our next movie."
But it was Jaws.
100%.
Jaws makes money.
there was a whole
Yeah.
mountain of cocaine
Yeah.
involved
That had to be.
somewhere in that whole mix. It was the 80s. Come
Yeah.
on. We're all
Jaws
adults here.
4
We
came
know
out in
what
the
was going
80s.
on.
Yeah, Jaws
Yeah,
4
it
is
was
what,
like
85,
89.
86?
88,
Was it
89. It was
something like
around
that?
there.
I remember seeing that in the movie theater, so that's
Yeah.
crazy.
No, the Jaws never made it to the 90s with new films. at
Wow.
all. That was like 88 or 89. But yeah, pretty much right along the lines. Like I could live without the revenge,
Mm.
like entirely as a film.
87.
87.
Wow.
There
Okay.
you
Oh
go.
yeah, you have the
Really?
the DVDs. You have the tapes next to you. Sorry.
I have tapes. I got the Blu-rays.
Okay.
Yeah, everything.
I got
But
it
it
all.
is it is crazy to think, I know just from my own perspective, I always get a little upset with sort of the way movies are done now, where a movie comes out and is mildly successful, and immediately it's like, when's the next one? And there's like this anticipation of like, all right, a movie just comes out, and like 5 minutes later, people like, when's the next one coming out? What are we doing with the next one? Like, how are we doing the next one? And like,
Yeah.
that bothers me so much. And I always think in my head through like these rose-colored glasses that like, oh, it never used to be like that. But then you look at the franchise like Jaws, and you're talking about a span of 12 years, they released 4 movies. Like,
Yeah.
that's pretty fast. That's
Yeah.
pretty fast. Like I mean, what the second one was what, 79?
It wasn't too
Something
long
like that,
after.
Yeah, I think it was like 78.
78?
Yeah.
78?
78,
So that was only
yeah.
like, and you figure along with the idea of the movie was in the theaters for 18 months or something. I mean, Jaws probably had just left the theater when 6 months later, all of a sudden Jaws 2 is coming out, or
Wow.
8 months later. Like that's pretty fast. So like I have to sort of like put some things in perspective when I get
You can
annoyed
reel it back
that,
a little bit. Yeah.
where everything seems like it's so fast, and then I'm like, they all did that. It's just when it comes to
Yeah.
money, everyone's just
Mhm.
looking to make as much as possible as fast as they can.
Yeah, there's a magic pocket with sequels. Like, if you really want to hit with a sequel, it's got to be within 5 years.
Yeah.
You wait too long, you're gonna lose that interest. If you do it too fast, you might oversaturate, like the slasher movies did in the 80s, because that was like
Sure.
one a year kind of stuff, which was ridiculous. But yeah, no, the revenge, yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Jaws
we haven't.
3, I will say, insane film, literally. Like, you had to be a crazy person to say, hey, let's stick a 35-foot long, first of all, 35-foot long great white shark.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is like, it's a school bus with teeth. Like, okay.
Oh yeah, we're
It's
starting to get
basically
into
a megalodon at that point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
you're basically teetering into Megalodon, Triterodon, which was like the in between Megalodon and the great white sharks of today. You're teetering in like prehistoric monster territory there. But at least that movie had like the goofiest 3D effects in the world
Oh, they were so bad.
to enjoy,
Yeah.
on top of this insane plot. It's like Jaws 3 is so crazy and so over the top that it almost like jumps the shark.
Yeah.
And
And we're back.
it just becomes this thing where it's like, yeah, this is terrible, but it's still so much damn fun. Like, I don't even have fun with Jaws the Revenge. I just watch it and I'm like, oh, this is sad and weird. Like,
Oh yeah, the
I
shark
feel
makes
secondhand
T-Rex
embarrassment
noises.
for the movie while I'm watching it. Like I'm
The
just like,
shark is roaring when it's jumping out of the water.
yeah,
Like,
no,
come on.
sharks don't
Oh,
have
one of
vocal
my
cords.
least
That's not a
favorite
thing.
trends in shark movies is fucking sharks roaring.
Mhm.
Every time I hear it, I'm just like, why? Why
Yeah.
did we do this? And it's like, oh, well, Jaws 4 did it one time, so now we can do it all the time. And it's like, no, you can't. You shouldn't. Stop, please. Like,
It's not a real thing.
we don't need
No.
it. No.
It's not a
No.
thing that happens.
It didn't work in Jaws 4. It's not going to work in anything
No,
else.
it did not work.
No,
Yeah.
you shouldn't be comparing anything. You shouldn't be doing anything if Jaws 4.
Yes.
Like it's amazing Michael Caine had a career after that.
He
Like
just did
it's
that for the
just-
money. He's just like, hey, it bought me a
Yeah.
house.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
There's a great interview excerpt I read about from Michael Caine from that. He's like, I've never seen the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I know it didn't do that well, but I know it bought my mother a house, and that's
Exactly.
okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is when an actor, a main actor in the movie is like, I did it for the money. You
Yeah.
know that this is not a movie that stands the test of time.
A lot of actors, well, to be fair here. Hey, hold on.
I
back
guess,
up.
all right, a lot of Jaws. We'll just do Jaws.
Even the most artistic actor in the world will do whatever you want them to do if you make the paycheck big enough.
They're not going to say, nah, fuck this movie, though. It just
Yeah,
bought me
they're
a
not
house.
above
You're
it.
not yeah.
Okay, they're not above it. Sir Christopher Lee was knighted. He was a theatrical actor. He still went back and played Dracula 25 times because they kept giving him the paycheck. Like, they're not above making a
I
rock
guess. It's a good point.
paycheck. And I don't discredit them for that because that's their profession. They've got to eat.
Oh, yeah, they need to make
Get
money.
it.
I just
get
think
it.
Michael Caine's line, along with how bad the movie was, just is perfect.
I mean, for every great part that an actor does, there's Christopher Lee in Howling 2. And if you guys know what I'm talking about there, you understand. There's awful films out there that really,
Yeah.
really prestigious people have made, and it's okay.
Sure,
We
sure.
forgive them for that. It's not their fault. It's mostly the studio's fault 9 times out of 10 that these movies are that bad.
So Jaws and Jaws 2 were kind of back to back, I guess we're saying now. Was the bigger jump between 2 and 3?
Yes.
You mean
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
time-wise?
Time wise?
Oh, yeah, big time.
Yeah, there was a while because I don't remember seeing 2 in the theater. I don't think I was old enough to do that. Maybe I was, but whatever. We won't talk about that tonight. But I remember seeing 3 and 4 in the theater. So that was a bigger jump from 2 to 3 then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, 2 to
I think
one-
3 was 83.
Yeah,
Was it?
3 was 83.
Wow.
It was
yeah.
like a 5-year jump between Jaws 2 and Jaws 3.
Okay.
Well, I feel like it was a perfect storm of commercialism because it was like, hey, we want to utilize the name of Jaws, and
Yeah.
also there's this new thing called 3D that is, well, it's not new, but there's this thing called 3D that is kind of sweeping the everyone's getting excited about this gimmick of 3D. It's like we can combine them both. And so it was
Yeah.
really just like, oh, this is perfect.
I can't believe they had all that time to make a Jaws 3 and that's what they still came up with.
I mean, a lot of good actors in that too.
Oh
I mean,
no, there's a lot of good
young-
lines in it too. Like the baby was
Right.
found inside the park, which means
Sure.
the mother is inside the park. Like that
Well,
line's
that's-
iconic for that
Yeah,
movie.
'cause that's Dennis Quaid in that, right? Dennis Quaid. and-
Yeah.
Yeah, he was high on cocaine the entire shooting of
Yes.
that
Was he
movie.
really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
No, the cast was really solid. Not the biggest.
Lee
names
Thompson's
the
in there.
I was just
Leah
gonna say the
Thompson,
chick
Thompson.
Yeah, Leah Thompson.
Louis Gossett Jr.
of Back
Right.
to the Future, right?
Definitely.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Leah Thompson's.
Okay.
Back to the Future. Definitely not the biggest names under the sun, but it was a strong cast.
Well,
Mhm.
no, I mean, at the time they weren't big, but they then became big actors. Like in
Yeah.
the same
Yeah,
way,
it was like right behind that.
Yeah,
Right-
it was like in the
right
same way
behind.
like Kevin Bacon was in Friday the 13th, you know, where
Yeah.
you're just like, oh, at the
Right.
time he was a nobody, but then obviously he became somebody. Same thing with like Jennifer Aniston in
Leprechaun.
in Leprechaun, you know,
Leprechaun.
where it's like, holy shit, that's crazy.
We had Charlie Sheen and Laura Dern in Grizzly 2. That actually never really got released. Never mind.
It doesn't matter that it never got released. It's still
They
a
were
thing
still
that
in it.
happened. And that's what
And
matters.
you can still buy it on Blu-ray. I wouldn't recommend doing it though.
No, it's a terrible film. It's
It's awful.
but But
So
no,
we
I
can
mean, it had
basically
a
say
lot of
that.
strong elements. The real problem with the jump between Jaws 1 and 2 to 3 and 4 was that the production team all changed,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
what it is. And like, you know, they
Well, Joe
brought
Alves worked on Jaws 1 and 2, I believe. I think he was the
yeah,
production designer, right?
he was the
Mm.
production designer for Jaws 1 and 2, and then he came over to direct Jaws 3.
Yeah.
That's quite a jump in jobs
Yeah.
if you know how
Yeah.
a movie set works. That's a very
Oh,
different
yeah.
mindset. I'm not saying that Joe Alves was incapable of doing it, but it's more so the people above his helmet
Right.
that the changing of the guard there, because all those guys like the David Zanuck and like those that the producing team, they were all kind of on their out their way out the door. Jaws was their big payday, and now it's time to retire. So now you got this whole new producer team. They're in the '80s. They're ripped up on coke with Dennis in the bathroom, and they're going, "What if we do this?" And it just yeah, and that's why those
They
two.
should have gone with their original idea for Jaws 3, which the original idea for Jaws 3 was it was going to be a parody, and it was going to be called uh, Jaws 1 People Zero or something like
Oh
that.
my
And it was
God, I didn't
basically
know
going to be
that.
like a National Lampoon movie.
Like a scary
Um,
movie
Holy
version of
shit.
Jaws.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
So it was
Fantastic. Yeah.
a sequel, but a parody of itself at the same time. And I'm just like, I would kill to fucking see that movie, to build a time machine and convince somebody to go and make that movie just so I can see what that would have been.
I think it would have been more revered, to be honest with you. I think it
Yeah.
would have been remembered more fondly
A
because
little
that
more
sounds like a
respected,
great,
maybe.
it sounds like
Yeah.
a great time, like a
Yeah.
genuinely great time. I would love to watch that.
Let me see here. We are almost at the end of questions, but not really. I don't so
Well, all right. Thanks for checking in.
thanks for checking
That
in, guys.
input.
If you're just tuning into hour 2 of the Jaws debate. So Jaws is such, and this was a panel, that's what I'm looking for. Panel thrown in question. Jaws is such a tightly edited movie. If you had to remove which one scene, which would it be? And that came from Mr. Rego of 221 Films.
Oh, well, all right. I'll, um, yeah, I'll jump since I'll jump in just to give you some time to think about it.
That was your submitted question when I asked if you had any.
Yeah, because it is such a tightly edited film, and I threw that question out there because I honestly didn't know when I asked it. I was like, oh, that's an interesting idea. Because it is so great. And I started thinking of scenes that could be cut. And it's really hard. Like, it's really hard to come up with a scene because every scene I thought of, I was like, oh, no, you got to have that because of this, or you got to have that because of this. The only scene that I could come up with, and I'm not saying I would do this because it's still a good scene, but it's the only one that I can come up with a reason to be like, that scene is kind of superfluous in the grander scale of the movie, which is Hooper going down in the cage on the boat. That's a scene I think could get cut because it has no bearing on anything else that happens in the movie. Like, he drops the fucking spear like an idiot,
Yeah.
and he doesn't really do anything to the shark. Like, the tank that the shark ends up getting in him is from the boat, so it's not like it's Hooper's tank that goes in there. So if you cut that scene out and Hooper just, like, I don't know, falls off the edge and dies or whatever, like, nothing much would have changed beyond that. That's like the only scene I could really think of as like what I would cut if I absolutely had to.
See, I thought about it after you posed that question, and it was the holiday roast scene.
That's the one that I was going to pick, actually, because I'm like, I
holiday
picture myself,
roast
if I'm in the
scene.
editing room,
Yeah.
I think that's the scene I would pick too. Not that I would want to, because I think it's fucking
Sure.
great. But like if it was just for a timing
Yep.
aspect, like if they needed to cut like 5 minutes from the movie, I think that would be the scene, because like you take that scene out and it doesn't really affect the rest of the plot.
No, I'm
It
not
does
sure.
add to it because it like we get to see like people are like trying to fuck around with this thing, and like
Yep.
it's not fucking around. But if it just comes down to like we have to cut something, I think like that's the one that you do.
Yeah.
And you don't they're not really using the shark in that scene either, so it's not even like a necessarily expensive scene to cut or anything like that. So yeah.
I thought of that scene as well. The only reason I didn't say that scene is because it does show the power of the shark. The fact that it dismantles the entire dock
Yeah.
was like, that's the first time you see like, oh, this is something bigger than what we thought. It's not just a shark that kills a person. This is a shark with tremendous amount of power.
Yeah, because it was
That
earlier on that we
it
didn't
was
know.
very, yeah, 'cause you hadn't seen anything. Up until that point, you really
Yeah.
just saw, well, you saw the Kittner boy, I guess.
But not the power. I mean, anybody can eat a
Not the,
13-year-old
but not
boy.
the power of the shark. That's the first time you see like the power of the shark.
Yes.
So that was the reason why I didn't go with that one.
Hopefully, when I do a clip out of this, it's not me saying anybody can eat a 13-year-old boy. We're gonna keep that one out of this.
Well, that's why you're in control of this one.
Yeah, James, up to you.
That's a choice. That's a choice of words right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is hard.
Yeah.
I would say that in addition to those, the only other scene I could think of, even though those probably like the most likely the Hooper going down in the cage scene, excuse me, would have been my choice as well, because I do feel like there was a tighter way to make that all happen, and Brody's still the last man standing in some way. The only other scene I could think of is when they're at the dinner table and Sean is imitating his father, right?
Oh,
Even though that's
character beats, yeah.
it's such a great character beat. It's so impeccably done, but at the same time, if someone's saying you got to chop 5 minutes, that would probably be one of the first things on there, because it really is a tertiary moment to like the plot and everything that the movie's going on with, even though it's so well done. So that would be like one that's like, and I think we as filmmakers, they'll tell you, everybody has that piece of the movie where they're looking at it going, this is so fucking good, but it just doesn't do anything. Out you go.
But how would we call back to it in Jaws 4 then, man?
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
not thinking about that.
Come on now.
It's true. It's true.
You're right.
That's why it's got to be the roast scene.
They were playing the long game, and they said 10, 15 years, some coked out madman is going to make this movie. It's going to matter that this scene is here. And that's why it's here, guys. But no, that's the only other scene I can literally think of in Jaws that could actually be cut without severely crippling the movie in some way. And that's a testament to how well done that movie is.
Yeah.
You can only pick out 3 spots where you could go, I think I could trim the fat even though I really don't want to. That's a really good movie.
Yeah, and it's not even really fat, right? Like it's like, yeah, you could cut it because if you really needed to cut it, but it's not fat. It's not terrible. It's just a matter of like, well, if I need to get this down a few minutes, I have to do this.
And they had already cut, because there is the longer version with I wish they left the Quint making fun of the kid at the music store in.
When he's buying the piano wire, that whole scene.
When he's just going bam, bam, bam to the kid playing the clarinet. That I feel like that scene could have been left in, because you see what an asshole Quint is.
Yeah.
Before he even gets on the boat.
Speaking of assholes, would anyone show up at someone's house with a couple of bottles of wine, just like hoping to get food, like Hooper does? Like that's kind of an asshole move right there. Like, I'm sure he can go to a restaurant. Instead, he's just like, I'm just going to show up at this dude's house and be like, yeah.
It was either that or sleep with his wife. So,
right.
I mean, which is funny, because if you think if they made this movie based on the book, like he's showing up possibly for both.
Yeah.
Oh, true. Yeah.
You know,
like Brody gets drunk and passes out, and it's the two of them.
Maybe Brody will get a call, like something happened on the island.
Yeah.
I'm glad of all the really hackneyed weird subplots of the book. I'm really glad that's the one that isn't there, because it's the one that serves like no purpose in the book. It's just a thing that freaking happens.
Yeah, Jaws does not need a romantic subplot.
No.
Most movies don't, but Jaws definitely does not.
No.
So let's talk about the shooting star scene, or the shooting star scenes actually, because there's a few of them.
Okay.
Movie magic or serendipitous
Oh, that's movie magic because we
That's
see the same
manufactured.
thing in
Yeah.
a lot of Spielberg's movies
Yeah,
actually
Spielberg
use that. Like
loves the
there's one
shooting
in
star
Temple
thing.
of Doom that I
But
recognize
Sure.
a lot. But
they were
yeah,
saying that
there's
his later movies came to have shooting star scenes because of what he caught in Jaws.
Don't
So you
buy it.
think it was movie magic?
I don't
It's
buy
not
it.
real.
It doesn't look
It doesn't look
super
real.
real to
No,
me.
it looks animated. It
Yeah.
looks animated.
Yeah.
The
I
frame
mean, I
rate
no
actually
doubt.
changes between
Oh, let's
Yeah.
get
being
crazy now.
shot and what and the shooting star.
Yeah, I
They're
mean,
not. They
I don't
don't
want.
match up. You can see flickering in it. Like
I don't need to disapprove of this thing, but like, um, I mean, I don't doubt that maybe there really was a real shooting star while they were shooting, and
Mhm.
that kind of maybe in a shot that he got, there was a shooting star, but never made it to the final print, and then that just gave him the idea to be like, oh, what if we put that in? But the one that's in the movie, as far as I can tell, that looks like it's
See, the
animated.
documentary insists that that was a real shooting
Really?
star. Yeah.
that's not.
I
There's
mean, I
no way.
guess what the hell do I know? I wasn't there,
I'm just
so
saying. I mean, they can say whatever they want. I'm
yeah.
going to believe
Yeah.
anything they say about Jaws.
No, I'm sorry. I can't. I just can't. I can't buy it. It's not real. There's
No.
no way. I mean, I'm a child of the 80s. I've watched a lot of 80s movies. I've watched a lot of old movies, and I can smell a matte painting from a mile away. Like,
Yeah.
come
Yeah,
on.
they were saying the cloud cover was too much to capture the stars, but
I'm
they just
thinking.
happened to capture this
I'm
one.
thinking there's a level of usually when you have a fiction and a truth, it's somewhere in between somewhere in the middle. They probably captured a shooting star, but the thing about shooting stars is they're a blink and miss it moment. They
Mhm.
Yeah.
go, and they're gone. To get that kind of drawn out thing to actually catch the viewer's eye, like you got to go a lot slower than an actual shooting star goes. So like you enhanced it a little bit. Maybe underneath that matte painting there is a shooting star by, but they just gave it a little bit of extra coat of paint, something
Yeah.
along those lines. But I can't buy that the shooting star that's in the movie is an actual shooting star. There's no way.
All right. I feel like, are you just like, fuck it, because it's Jaws anyways? They can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
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 I mean,
I'm not judging them for it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying don't try to convince me it's a real shooting star.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to see me like protest the movie for shooting
well, it's a
star.
little late now. Like 50 years
Yeah.
later, you're going to hit on Martha's Vineyard. Be like,
Meteorite supremacy now. Like, no,
Yeah.
it makes sense.
Go outside Universal Studios with some picket signs.
and I mean, just one or two more questions and we can wrap this up. Although I'm sure we could talk Jaws for hours.
I could easily go until like what time is it? It's like 9:30, 9:15. Yeah, no. Yeah, like 8, 9, 10 more hours. It's
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Do you have a favorite line from the movie?
yes.
I mean, the movie is ultimately quotable. There's 1,001 lines in this movie that we use day to day.
Jaws is carried on with me throughout my life. But with my particular friend group, a lot of us in the company that I've been friends with for years and years and years, I'm very blessed that I get to work with my best friends and making movies. But Jaws is easily the most quoted movie around the campfire. It came from the 508 and Dead of Winter Entertainment. And well, I'm not a drinking man anymore, but when I was, and even now I'll toast with like Pepsi or something. But my line from the movie that I always quote is "Here's the swimming with bow-legged women."
I thought you were going to go to "I'll drink to your leg if you drink to mine" because
well, that's usually what Paul says to me after I say "Here's the swimming with bow-legged women."
I mean, there's so many good ones. It's really hard to narrow it down. I mean, I guess if I don't know if it's just because it's the one that I hear a lot whenever joking around about Jaws.
Mhm.
But the one that I think the most of is $10,000 for Me by Myself. That you get the head, the tail, the whole
Yeah.
damn thing. Like, I don't know. That's one that pops into my mind like almost immediately when I just think of Jaws. I don't know if it's necessarily my favorite, but
Yeah.
it is the one that I think of probably first when I think of
And
Jaws.
that's the only reason I started listening to Power Man 5000, because they had that song with a lot of Jaws references in it. And I was like, all right, I'll listen to this band.
Also, I'm sorry, Steve. Go ahead. Do your thing, and I'll mention. Something.
Like everybody said, there's so many great lines. One that I just really like, and maybe it's not even my favorite, but one that I just really enjoy is when they're discussing about going to the marina to open up the shark, and then Hooper is like, "Can we do that?" And Brody's like, "I'm the chief of police. I can do whatever I want."
Yeah. That one has made it
like
into
just half in
Yeah.
the bag already. He's just like, "Yeah, fuck it. I'm the chief of police, so I could do whatever the fuck I want. It's the '70s. Who's gonna question it?"
Yeah.
There's no social media.
No.
Yeah.
No one's gonna catch me.
Nope.
I would say a close, not the first one, second one, but the line in the second one that I always love is when he goes to the town council and he's
Yeah.
"That's a shark, and you better do something about this one." Because I forget what the rest of it is, but basically,
I ain't going through that
I've seen
again.
this,
I've
been up
seen it up
close.
close and-
Not doing this again.
not doing this again, exactly. But that is a great
Yeah.
line. Second one that I always think of.
Yeah, I feel like we're going to have to follow this up later on this year with a Jaws 2 talk, because that movie it's not obviously Jaws, but it's good and it's
It's
quotable.
right behind it.
And it's right behind it. It's got that whole feel of it is just
It's
great,
like
too.
barely a step down. It's
Yeah.
like just a little
Yeah.
bit. It's just a little bit less. Just like a hair less than
Yeah.
what the first Jaws is. Jaws 2 is a really, really
it
good.
works just as well.
Yeah. The other story I would say of like most quoted things is like same friend group. Jaws is always been a very big part of it, but Friday, Saturday nights drinking when we were growing up, like 20s and early 30s or whatever. We used to sing the song quite a bit from the the monologue scene, the "Show Me the Way to Go Home" song. Yeah, it was right around like shot like 8 or 9. And we got like really tipsy, and somebody would just kick it off, and it would just be this loud, obnoxious thing, and it was always fun. So
Did
that was
someone
always
play
a
the
fun
shark
part.
and bust up the song halfway through?
No,
Yeah.
usually it was cops, but same difference.
Same difference. Yeah, the Mary Ellen Moffat, "She Broke My Heart," I think comes in
Oh, that
right
is a
up
good
there.
one.
Yeah.
I don't have the hairy chest to do it with, but it still works either way.
He really did have quite the chest furrow going on, didn't he?
Very much so. I mean, it was the 70s. I think it
It was
was
the 70s. That was like a mark of the manliness. The
Yeah.
I mean,
manliness.
I don't think that had anything to do with the time period.
no,
I mean,
I don't know.
you think he that was like a quaff? Like you think he like manicured that to have a hairy chest?
Yeah,
I think
I
that
feel
just
like-
happened naturally.
Later on, like look at Jaws 3. Dennis Quaid wasn't that hairy.
Well, no, but there's something to be said about body hair in general, whether either sex. Like, it became less sexy in the 80s. Most guys
So, I
were
mean,
walking
you don't really see a lot of hairy-chested men anymore in movies.
No,
No,
Because,
because-
I mean, generally speaking, if a guy's taking off his shirt in a movie now, he's got like 12-pack and he's like super jacked.
I mean,
So-
look at
And
the
it's, like,
first Jaws.
shorn. There's nothing there. He's greased up. He's
Yeah.
shiny.
People
There's no
looked
hair
like
in
human
sight.
beings in the first movie.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
People look
People-
like human beings in like 1 and 2. They look like
Yes.
people.
Yeah.
And
I
then
mean-
the 80s fully swung into full effect, and then everybody just got drenched in nair from the neck down.
Mhm. I mean, well, the first movie, they basically used people, not actors, for the beach scene. So everybody just kind of looked
Yeah.
like you would
Yeah,
look
it
on the
was- It was
beach.
townies. It was just
Yeah.
townies.
It was crazy.
It's like
to
the
think
all their
that.
glory.
sexiest beach scene in a movie.
Yes, exactly.
It's like you would never see like if getting back to like the Jaws being remade. If
Mhm.
that was remade today, everyone on that beach would be like a fucking 10. Like it's just
Oh,
like
yeah.
women in bikinis.
Oh, it'd be
Yeah.
like
buff
Baywatch.
dudes.
Yeah,
There would
Mrs.
be more
Mrs.
plastic-
Kittner and her
There would be
One
more
Piece.
plastic on that beach than any turtle could handle. Okay.
Mrs. Kintner would be Denise Richards. It would be a mess.
Yeah, it's out of control. Back then,
It would,
it was you had two age groups. You had like under 15 and over 50. That was like the look
Yeah.
Yeah.
of everyone on that beach.
And that's what
the
makes it so
thing,
realistic, though, I
yeah.
think.
No, that's the thing, that the genius of this movie and the genius of Steven Spielberg and the way he made this movie was, this isn't a California movie. This is gonna look like a New England movie. This is gonna
Hmm.
look like a New England town. This is going to look like it should, because the more real this looks, the more real the terror feels, the more real people will
Hmm.
believe the shark is. He got it. He got it. He
Yeah.
understood the thing that Hollywood has not understood before or since. Because almost every horror movie I have on this wall of movies next to me right here, and everything else, it's all Californified, in
Hmm.
my opinion, which is exactly what every beach in every movie has ever looked like. It looks like Santa Monica Pier at golden hour, with all of the tens with their Brazilian butt lifts, and it just does not look believable. Like, that's, I'm like, okay, yeah, that's Southern California beaches, but the rest of the world does not look like that.
Yeah, if you're watching this and you're not from New England beaches do not look like that.
No, no,
They look like Jaws.
they look
Yeah.
like Jaws.
How are the beaches up in Ottawa, Steve? How has that look?
Yeah, I would say it's a little bit more like Jaws than it is
Okay.
California.
Yeah. That's what just makes it so relatable, though. I can relate to
Yeah.
Mrs. Kittner's big hat because I have one of those.
Those are good to
Big
get the
hat
sun
and sunglasses.
Yeah.
And the sunglass and the bathing suit.
There you go.
So let's end it with, if each one of you would like to give me, this is going to be hard, one word to describe the movie.
Oh, geez, traumatizing.
I can back that.
Incredible.
Perfect.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
I mean, I also traumatizing. I don't even go into pools really that much anymore. Pool shark.
Genuinely perfect movie.
It really is. Thank you guys so much for coming on and talking Jaws. Like, very excited.
Thank you for having me. It's my favorite movie of all time. So
We'll do it again and again and again. If you have any projects coming up, anybody would like to share anything before we end the live stream, I would love for that to be shared.
Anybody want to go first?
Go ahead,
Hi.
James.
I'm James Lamont. You heard that name at the beginning of the episode. I'm the CEO of Dead of Winter Entertainment, and it came from the 508 Productions. Please go check out 11 if it's playing at a film festival near you right now, or in the near future, where it's going all the way from London to Tokyo right now. So if you're in the country, out of the country, whatever, like, check out 11, check out everything we do at deadofwinterentertainment.com. And yeah, when you go there, go rent the box, go rent One Last Kill, put like $1.50 in my pocket, which would be cool. And buy my Blu-rays. Thanks.
So where are they as One More Kill? Is that streaming anywhere, or is that all physical at this point?
We have our own digital service through the website.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
We do our own rental / streaming stuff rather than outsource it.
Awesome. And what's
Nice.
you might have mentioned this website. I apologize. What was the website?
Deadofwinterentertainment.com.
Dead of Winter Entertainment. Cool.
I can pass you along an info afterwards also if you need from James.
Okay.
Like if you guys don't afterwards.
All right.
Or
Easy.
you do that afterwards. Whatever
Take it easy.
whatever floats your Jaws boat, whatever floats your orca.
We're all touching tips after? Is that what's
Yes.
happening here?
Boy, I did not sign up for that. I didn't realize.
Surprise.
This went into a whole different area. So
and now the podcast docking sequence will begin.
Yeah. So I just finished. I'm in post production for a movie right now called Goetic, which is a supernatural horror film that yeah we're probably going to release probably in the fall sometime. we did actually do. We're looking for some post production funds. So if anyone's interested in learning more about the movie, we have a Kickstarter that we threw up. If you Goetic is Goetic. You can search on Kickstarter for it. I have a teaser on there and basically what we're looking for. But yeah, it's a feature film. I have another movie that we released a year and a half ago called Cryptid, which is a monster movie that's playing on Amazon and Plexi and a few other streaming services. You can check it out. Yeah, that's all I got.
Captain.
Yeah, so I'll promote a couple of things here really quickly. One is a movie that just came out called The Last Video Store. My old college roommate when I was in film school was the director of photography on it. It was just released by Arrow in December. A Canadian company is releasing it here in Canada called Black Fawn Distro. It's a great movie. It's a throwback to 80s movies and just the video store experience. Basically, people from the VHS tapes come to life inside this video store, and it's just chaos. It's a great movie. It's a lot of fun. And he also has a YouTube channel that somebody else we know works with called Oddly Dark, and it's just a bunch of short horror films. And the Bucket of Chum logo is going to be making an appearance on there pretty soon, so keep an eye out for that. And yeah, I'm Captain Steve from Bucket of Chum. My podcast is just about shark movies, the good, the bad, the ugly, all of it. I have a Patreon, patreon.com/Bucket of Chum. This month, probably next week, I'm actually going to be covering a porn parody of Jaws called Deep Jaws. So yeah, and this whole year, we've been talking about it. Jaws turns 50. Pretty much every month, whether it's on the Patreon or on the main feed, I'm covering a movie that is somehow related to Jaws, or the movies that kind of came out on the coattails of Jaws. So movies like Great White, Cruel Jaws, things like that. So yeah, I pretty much release every week. I have a YouTube channel, and you can find me wherever it is you get podcasts. And thank you so much for having me on. This was awesome.
I'm glad everybody had a blast. I mean, and I guess I'll push myself. You all know me. You know how I earn a living. It's Crypt Tidbits with General Tidbits. I have, some episodes coming out next month, but I've just been so focused on the Jaws episode. It has totally encompassed me. So nothing out in this next month, but keep an eye out on the channel. And thank you to the panel for tonight. I mean, we'll use one more Jaws reference before we go. As you know, like amity means friendship. And I could not have done that without the amities here tonight. So thank you guys very much.
Thank you.